Okay, so I'm at home and I'm making this video for y'all because I won't be with you when you're watching it, because I'll be in Columbia at a professional development conference for literacy. Okay. Do not make fun of my hair. I'm off duty and not your teacher right now. So yes, I know it's in pigtails and it looks a hot mess, but don't make fun. And B, if you get a glimpse of my house, remember that I have 3 small children, and don't judge, because it is slightly horrific looking right now. It looks like Hurricane Annabelle, Clarkland, and Evansley went through it sometime today. If you don't have comments on your outlines when you start your rough drafts, y'all, please don't freak out. I'm going to get comments on there. I'm going to help you with everything just like I always do. But remember that I have 118 students. And right now, there's one of me, and 118 of y'all. I'm trying to comment on 4th period, 6th period, 1st period, and 7th period's outlines. Plus, I'm trying to read all of 2nd and 3rd periods rough drafts and do rough draft conferences with them. Plus, I'm still trying to sift through note cards. So just be patient. I promise I'll get there. Just bear with me, okay? Now I'm going to flip you around, and you're going to be looking at my computer screen and Canvas. So you'll still hear me, but you won't see me. And again, don't judge my house. I know it looks bad right now. Okay, so you can see my computer screen. And you see all the stuff on the research module. You see over here that I'm clicked on modules. Okay, so you're going to go down here to the sample rough draft. Now, yesterday, I published the final draft, not because I want y'all to go ahead and be working on your final draft, because there's a lot to go into that before you get there, but because I wanted you to be able to read it for content from beginning to end and see exactly what I hope you will accomplish with your topic at the end of this project. I feel like that'll give you a good idea as to what your rough draft should look like and what your outline should look like. Because some people in 6th period, y'all know y'all were stressing about your outline, and you were stressing over what your topics were going to be and what your paragraphs were going to be. And so I published that so that y'all could see what was in the final draft, and so you could have a better idea of it. But y'all, that is by no means pushing you to go ahead and do the final draft. Take it step by step. Do not overwhelm yourself. All right. So rough draft is what we're going to click on. And y'all, my mouse is just like a pain in the behind, and my internet is being crazy right now. So this is what comes up. And you'll notice that it is not an MLA format. And yes, I did cheat just a little bit. Unlike y'all, I did not handwrite, and mine is not a full rough draft. Mine is just the first page because there were a couple things I wanted you to see. First of all, I want you to see, and I wish I had touch screen on this computer, but this is my home computer, not my school computer. First of all, I want you to see the introduction. And the fact that the introduction works its way from general to specific, okay? So I start off very broadly, very generally. America was settled by the Europeans in the 1600s. But before they lived here, this land was occupied by Native Americans. I started off with a broad general statement that anyone who is at all familiar with any sort of history would know, okay? Then I move on to be a little more specific. I picked up what I talked about in the first sentence with Native Americans, and I made that the subject of my next sentence. I said one specific tribe of Native Americans is called the Navajo. Notice I did the same thing here and here. The last thing I had in this sentence was Navajo. The first thing in the next sentence is the Navajo Indians. The Navajo Indians have their own culture that is different yet similar to the other Native American tribes' cultures. However, Their language is unique to their tribe. Again, notice the last thing that I really talk about is being unique, okay? And the first thing I talk about in the next sentence is being unique, is the uniqueness. So this uniqueness led to members of the Navajo Nation becoming a part of a military branch called the Navajo Code Talkers. Again, Navajo Code Talkers was the last thing in that sentence. It's the first thing in my thesis sentence, and my thesis sentence is the next sentence. Consequently, notice it's also the last sentence in this first paragraph, okay? Remember, you work your way from general to specific. I started off with a very generalized statement about all Native Americans. I got down to Navajo Native Americans in World War II. Okay, so the Navajo Code Talkers impacted World War II in great ways because their language was unknown. They were able to use their language to develop a new unbreakable code, and their code gave the United States a military advantage in battle. You notice that I'm going to talk about Navajo Code Talkers and how they impacted World War II. I'm going to talk about how their language was unknown. I'm going to talk about how they used their language to develop a new unbreakable code. And I'm going to talk about that code giving the United States a military advantage. Okay? So you see from my thesis, and y'all know I taught with my hands. So yeah, I'm still talking with my hands. You see from my thesis exactly what I'm going to talk about in my paper. And you can see the order in which I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to first talk about the Navajo Code Talkers, and I'm going to give you some background. I'm going to give you some background about World War II. Okay? Then I'm going to talk about their language being unknown. Then I'm going to talk about their language developing a new code. And then finally, I'm going to talk about that code giving them a military advantage. You see with my thesis exactly how I should move through my paper. I can't talk about a military advantage in the beginning of my paper because A, it's not first thing in my thesis statement, but B, I can't have a military advantage until I have an unbreakable code, and I can't have an unbreakable code until I've talked about the language being unknown. Think chronologically. Things have to be in order, okay? It's just like you as a human being. You couldn't go to school until you were born. So if you were writing the biography of your life, you couldn't talk about your school life and then talk about your birth because that would be backwards. You would have to talk about your birth and then your school life. Okay, so you have to go in order, have to go chronologically. Okay, so that's the first thing.